Welcome back. As you can see, today's session is about genius and gender. And in essence, it asks the question, why are there so few women geniuses, no matter how you define the term genius? To get across the point I'll be making, I offer a quote from the mouth of painter-sculptor Louise Nevelson. Said Miss Nevelson, "My husband's family was terribly refined. Within that circle, you could know Beethoven, but God forbid if you were Beethoven." Great quote. But look at me. As a male, I have no standing here. This session should be moderated by a female. Not only do I not have answers to important questions, I'm also not entirely sure I know what questions to ask. To try to fix this problem, I've asked a guest to join us, and she will, but before we meet her, let me try to set a context for today's discussion. During the course of my readings about genius over the centuries, I found that I wasn't encountering many women. But I certainly wasn't the first to notice the striking absence of female geniuses. Keith Symington at the University of California, Davis has offered some eye-popping statistics on the point. Women make up only about 3% of the most noteworthy political figures in history. In the annals of science, fewer than 1% of notables are women. Even within the more supposedly female-friendly domain of creative writing, female luminaries constitute only 10% of so-called great writers. Is this truth, or is it cultural perception? To make the point, let's review that Apple TV commercial of 1997 that we saw in session 1, in which a roster of geniuses of the 20th century stream by. But how many women show up? I'll count along as you identify the women.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones,
3.
We see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
The first woman to appear comes in 10th place, opera singer Maria Callas. Couldn't we have at least had another MC, Marie Curie? Then later appear pilot Amelia Earhart and choreographer Martha Graham. And that's it. 3 of 18, 1 out of 6. But that's better than most statistics. I began to gather my own statistics about the perceived dearth of women geniuses in 2006 as I went around the United States lecturing for One Day University and asking participants to fill out a questionnaire. Eventually, I got over 4,000 responses. The question was, name 12 geniuses. My responding audience was 57% women, most over the age of 50. In the list of geniuses, on average, the first 7 places went to males, and only, again, on average, in 8th place was a woman mentioned. That person was usually Marie Curie, sometimes Rosalind Franklin, sometimes Eleanor Roosevelt. Genius seems to be a status occupied overwhelmingly by males, at least in the mind of the public, even in the mind of women. More evidence of bias. The same disproportion arose and continues to arise in my genius class at Yale. Although Yale undergraduates are now 50-50 by gender, and although the genius course is a general humanities course open to all annually, the enrollment skews about 60-40 male-female. Women at Yale don't seem to be quite as interested in the notion of genius as their male counterparts. I can fix this problem because a pre-registration process usually allows me to balance the course equally by gender. But why are women apparently less interested than men in the subject I was teaching, genius? Are women less excited by competitive comparisons that rank some people more exceptional, quote unquote? And that's what the term genius does. It's a ranking. Are women less likely to value the traditional markers of genius, things such as the world's greatest painting or the most revolutionary invention? Are women less interested because they don't see themselves in the picture? Why take another course in which the instructor, a male, requires readings, once again, about the triumphant accomplishments of great men? Have women been covertly led to think, by long-standing cultural tradition, that they cannot be full participants in the game or the process of genius? Isn't that also true, I'm told, of what happens in the so-called STEM courses, science, technology, engineering, and math? There seem to be few female role models for the study of genius, as well as role models for women in these STEM disciplines. But genius is broader than the sciences and technology. It includes the arts and humanities, of course, and discrimination has been going on for a long time in the arts and humanities as well as in the sciences. Didn't anyone say back in the day, back in the bygone eras, didn't they notice and complain? Didn't they cry out, "Stop the steal"? Men, of course, would have had no incentive to do so, and usually didn't. One of the first women to do that was humanist writer and genius Virginia Woolf in her small book, A Room of One's Own. And here, in fact, my copy of it. This is a work I believe every educated person, male or female, should read, not only for its content, but also for its prose. It's a model, in my opinion, for how to write in the English language. Thus, we start by first turning to female genius Virginia Woolf.